my daughter oftentimes just wants to know that I accept her. Acceptance doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree with everything that she does, but I accept her in her brokenness, but I also want to love her towards a more cultivated image. Security is, she wants to know that I'm there, that I'm present, that and I think men provide a lot more than just financial. I think that's actually a really shallow way of looking at it. I think men provide, things like an atmosphere, an identity. I think it's really important for a dad to make sure that a girl knows that she's beautiful, and that she's loved. An area that I'm noticing that I'm having to wrestle a little bit with is that my children, even though my son and my daughter are kind of best friends, but they don't realize it. Like when you step back, when they fight with each other, especially when it comes down to time with me, they're fighting for my love. And they don't realize that that's what they're doing, is they're competing to try to get me to love them first, if that makes sense. They're trying to jockey for position. And I have to slow down and let them know that I don't love them more or less than the other, and they can't do anything to earn more or less, and so, I think it's a level of security, but also leads into acceptance and an identity. And I think it's also a role of a father to set like a family identity. We love hard. We're quick to forgive. So there's some purposes there, and there's some things. And so I try not to recreate the wheel, because I really feel like the wheel's already been created, and I think there's been a phenomenal example there. I just don't think we have enough men out there modeling some things. But I also don't think men are supposed to be shallow, and I don't think we should be doormats either. I think we should have confidence, and I think we should have a boldness. An area that I didn't get growing up was is I didn't really have an advocate for me in some scenarios. And I think there are times where a dad, whether it's right or wrong, that kid needs to see the dad step in there and advocate for their kid. And there was a scenario that happened where my daughter, she said there was like a ghost in her room or something like that. And my wife kind of played it off. And I went to play it off too, because I was just kind of following that a little bit. And I just kind of got flipped. And I was like, you know what? I always want to believe my child. Even though like my life experience and stuff like that, I'm like, I want to believe my child. And I remember getting up off the couch. I was tired and everything like that. My wife and I were about to transition to kind of our time. We had given our best to everybody. And my wife was like, where are you going? And I looked at my wife and I said, I want my daughter to know that I always believe her. And I walked into her room and I said, what's going on? And so she said, there's a ghost. And I said, where's the ghost? Because I wanted her to know that like I'm here to protect and all this other stuff. And she pointed, well, we had a blackout curtain over the window, and in the ceiling there was a vent, and it was kind of blowing on us, so it was moving the curtain. And so she thought there was a ghost in there, and I said, there's no ghost there. And she's like, yeah, there is. And so I had to explain some things, but I went in there with this mentality that I want to believe you, and I want to protect you, and I want you to know that no matter how bad it gets, I'm in your corner. It doesn't mean that we're not going to figure some stuff out together, and it doesn't mean that I might eat some humble pie, but through this process we're gonna figure this out. And she went right to sleep when my presence came into that room, and she knew it was going to be okay. She went right to sleep with no issue or anything like that. And I think it's another area that I think dads provide, is this sense of protectiveness. And I honestly think that a lot of trauma that happens in a kid's life is simply because parents become so distracted and absorbed in certain things that opportunity is opened up for things to happen. And I'll land with this. And I didn't fully answer your question, just simply because just kind of more of the way my mind works is like I don't try to recreate the wheel. Accidents happen when responsibility is forfeited. And I think a guy's job is, I don't want to say you never rest, but as a parent, you don't get the luxury of rest in that scenario, because your job is to cultivate and your job is to grow, and you can never abandon your post in that scenario, because, you know, all it takes is one time. But I've discovered that, like, I can't protect my kids from every scenario that comes their way, but I can insulate them and condition them to be strong in how to handle situations when I'm not present. And I think it's a role of a dad. And I think it's unfair, and I think it's selfish to try to pawn that off on a woman and sit there and say, you have to double dip roles. And then they come into a relationship expecting that wife to respect them, appreciate them, value them, or even give themselves to them because they think it's a female's job or whatever their view of marriage is. And then they wonder why there's contention there, because she's having to play a masculine role and she has to play a feminine role, when, you know, she's not so hardwired to be that, when that's where you're, you know, as a man kind of comes in and we provide certain things. And women naturally crave security. It's hardwired into them. I've discovered my wife doesn't necessarily need, you know, billions of dollars, even though if I can provide it, sure, why not?
Right.
But she wants to know that it's going to be okay. She wants to know that together between us, we're going to figure it out, and it's going to be an us thing. And it's same with kids. So a lot of our stuff is a family thing. Kind of long-winded answer there.
No, it was great. And man, I don't even want to follow it up, right? we're gonna end it on that, right? So I'm gonna say, first of all, Dustin, I definitely appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing your story and your insight, and that's why I'm not even gonna try to top that last answer, because I think you said so much important stuff that I just want to leave our listeners right there, right, and they can rewind if they need to kind of go back and listen to anything, you know, listen to exactly what you said. So again, thank you so much for being on. Thank you for being a guest. Is there any social media presence or anything you want to leave the audience with where they can follow you?
That is an area I'm not the strongest in.
Okay.
I'm not as connected to social media because a lot of my mental energy is really focused on kind of what it is that I'm doing at that time.
Right.
My wife's a little bit more the social butterfly, even though, like,
Right.
believe it or not, I'm introverted and I just said a lot. I do love to give if I'm in a position to give. But on the social media side of things, I'm not as connected.
Right.
So if anybody wants to find me or get in touch with me or whatever, track my wife down. I think you have all her stuff there.
Yeah.
She's kind of like she's my little my walkie-talking calendar. She kind of plans things, and so.
Yeah, and no doubt. And to all my listeners, if you guys are listening to this episode, if you go to the episode right before this one, you'll be able to hear my episode that I did with Annalise, and awesome episode, just as much as this one. And so definitely we'll make sure that all their information is also put into the descriptions. So again, I want to say thank you, Dustin, so very much for sharing your time and your experience with us. To my listeners, I want to tell you guys thank you also. Make sure you guys go to our website, or to my personal website, should I say, the dealhealfulfill.org, in order to check out myself and everything that I have going on, and even possibly book me to come out to be a speaker or to host a workshop there. And so make sure you guys go to dealhealfulfill.org, which is my mission, to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, where our mission is to amplify the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. And so until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. Also, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else that the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on the air. Until next time, be blessed.